As with every update lately, it seems the house of cards that is game development always seems to be disrupted, almost to a point where it's predictable come every update. Now, Season 1 Reloaded, while introducing a ton of quality of life changes and bug fixes, didn't become the exception to that almost rule, because plenty broke, didn't work as intended, or something along those lines in regards to something not working as intended. However, and thankfully, we've already had a few more surprise updates since the Reloaded update to fix some of these bigger issues, quicker than I anticipated, honestly, so we're breaking these down. As we go along, drop your thoughts below. If you enjoy the video, you found it at all insightful, do me a favor and drop a like on it, and if you're new to the channel, make sure you subscribe to stay updated with all things Modern Warfare 2, Warzone 2, and DMZ, and if you'd like to join us on that road to 600,000 subscribers. And finally, check out my friends over at G Fuel. Code Espresso can get you 30% off on some products, 20% on all products, so it makes it a great time to grab a restock or get a stocking stuffer gift for anybody for the holidays. But anyways, let's jump in and talk about these changes to Warzone 2 and DMZ. So these changes were announced by the official Infinity Ward and Raven Twitter accounts. So firstly, on the Warzone side of things, we ended up seeing that the Loadout drop public event, that's actually been changed now, actually as of after this update, last 24 to 36 hours here with this, in which the Loadout drop public event will now start during the second circle, making that something that happens one circle earlier than the pre-update version of this. Now, while at first glance, changing it by one zone doesn't seem like a whole ton, that actually is pretty big for the gameplay loop and the entire flow of how each match will play. This is one that I'm sure is probably something many people have an opinion on. I don't know how much of one that I personally have. I think that increasing things like the stronghold count so that you have more accessibility to loadouts was a good start with Season 1 Reloaded, and this is definitely a nice touch, but is it something that this is now the be-all, end-all? I still think that we should have some way to purchase loadouts at some point, whether that be something that is delayed until after like zone 3, 4, or 5 or something like that, increasing the total amount that they cost, whatever the case, but it is something that makes this more accessible to all players, which is definitely nice. But honestly, if we are going to see more accessibility to loadouts, we gotta see more perks fixed out in these perk packages that we have working as intended a little more. I did notice that some of these were actually fixed out, not all of them, but I did notice that during the Code Bowl today, the tournament that I played in, that High Alert was working as intended whenever I got to pick up my loadout. Didn't get to do that too often across the 4 matches that we played, but when I did, it was something that did actually work. So nice step in the right direction, but again, still some work that needs to be made. But again, all moving parts. The second change that we can talk about that was pretty large was that buy stations have doubled in quantity across the map. Now, the big question mark that we still don't have answers on is this doubled from the lowered amount that we had as a result of the unintended change that Season 1 Reloaded brought along, or is it doubling in quantity of the original amount of buy stations that we saw pre-Season 1 Reloaded update? Because as we mentioned in yesterday's Secret Changes video, that was something we really only had one buy station per major point of interest, so not a lot of buy stations around the map at all. Now, I'm really curious to see where we go in terms of tuning for buy stations further. Definitely all for increasing the amount of buy stations that we have across the map, but also beyond access to guns, there's a lot of things that definitely I think could be useful having more accessibility to them. One thing being the utility per buy station. The one thing that I was talking about with my teammates during the Code Bowl today was the balancing of things like UAVs. The reasoning that we have one per buy station is that they don't want UAV spam, and I entirely get that. It's been kind of nice not having to hear the ping of a UAV and be paranoid of where fights may or may not be coming from, but at the same time, it also makes the game slower if you are an aggressive player. The solution that we had during this is just kind of pitching ideas off the wall here is, well, what if there's like 3 UAVs per buy station instead of just 1 with no refresh throughout the game? What if each buy station allowed for 1 UAV per team? I think that both of those things, both those solutions would be something that would be pretty solid, that would keep the pace of the game, but also not disrupt the flow in a spammy nature. So I'd be curious to see how we see things handled by Raven going forward with further quality of life changes. It doesn't seem like that reset bug for UAVs applies anymore for buy stations to get more than 1 out of a single buy station by, I think it was buying 5 individual armor plates or something like that. So if that's the case, I think this would be a nice way to sort of mitigate that and offer more utility, but also again, not in a spammy nature. Beyond that, we saw that the heavy chopper has also been disabled, a change coming in the last 24 hours or so. This due to kind of exploits, but they were like legal exploits. It was just a way to abuse a system that was in place in game. It's not something that was actually a glitch or anything like that, but it allowed players late game to be almost invincible in those small circles. With so much ammo needed to take out or even make a dent in those things, it just allowed players to hold out way longer than they should have, and again, created some imbalance in that late game. So if you got down to that final circle, you had less a chance to win against somebody that was in one of those. So those have been taken out while they balance that and restructure it. one thing that I kind of think they can do that would hopefully work was to allow for these to be damaged over time in the gas, in the zone, not create those sort of imbalances late game, but we'll see what happens beyond that. We also saw a fix to allow weapon tuning to be saved in custom blueprints now. As of the initial update, you could not, but now you should be able to. The one thing though, continuing on from yesterday's video, that I will say is still be aware that there could be bugs with the blueprints. Again, having not jumped on since this change was made, I can neither confirm nor deny that the bugs that I experienced on update day could still be there. For those that are unaware, this was something that I loaded into Warzone. I heard it happen in multiplayer as well with those custom blueprints, but when I went to recall those, when I went to select them out of a loadout, it would either strip the gun of all the attachments or just not even give me the gun at all, and it would just be bare fists out. So fingers crossed that's been fixed out as well, but weapon tuning should now apply as well to these blueprints. We saw stabilization fixes across all platforms, which is definitely nice, and of course is one of the biggest things that should be a priority here with this. I will say, maybe I've been lucky, but I definitely think that since the Reloaded update, I've noticed better stability. The times that I've played, I didn't crash as much on those long marathon sessions, but also on the smaller sort of sub 3 to 4 hours, I didn't crash at all. So fingers crossed this is now getting to a more stable state and something where you don't have to worry about crashing. The biggest thing for Activision, if you really want to elongate that player retention, the biggest thing is making sure that people don't crash. Simply playing the game is what is going to elongate that player time. So fingers crossed we're in a right direction on that one. And then finally, DMZ, we saw the AI combatant difficulties. It was dialed back a little bit. They ended up stating that while they were attempting to make some changes to more focused areas of play, probably places like the black sites and strongholds, the overall AI difficulty that was going to be increased for those locations was inadvertently applied across the board as a blanket update. So those common AI were way too powerful. So that's been dialed back and should be mitigated by now. Now, beyond that, that's where we're at here in those updates. But for future fixes, I think that we may actually see some more fixes for some of these larger and smaller things at this rate, which is definitely nice. But we also do have to bear in mind that studios will be starting to head out for the holiday break here sometime next week. My guess is Wednesday or Thursday. Have no idea if that's actually true or not, but that's in line with other office spaces in the industry that would be releasing their employees here for the holidays. So fingers crossed we get more fixes and communication between now and then, which I gotta say, communication-wise, we're getting back to form in some capacity, which is nice. But again, on a partial note, because it's more so Raven as of recently that's been tweeting and being communicative with the community overall. And I say that in respect to Raven's tweeted more about changes in recognizing issues in the last 24 to 36 hours since the Reloaded update than we've seen from Infinity Ward since October 31st. And I wish that I exaggerated that, but that's actually true. I went back and I ended up stalking the timeline a little bit. 10 tweets since the Reloaded update from Raven talking about issues and fixes upcoming or things that have been already pushed out in small hot fixes, whereas acknowledging issues, talking about things that have been logged or fixes that have been pushed out, 10 takes you all the way back to October 31st from Infinity Ward. So while they have made a step up here in the last couple of days since the Reloaded update, I'd still like to see more of it. And I understand, yes, with a AAA title like this, a publisher that is so prominent as Activision like that, I'm sure there's a million hoops to jump through, a ton of red tape. I get there's probably things that you have to clear like QA, studio heads, comms at Infinity Ward, Activision Legal, Activision PR, and probably a few other channels before anything is said at all. But reserving discussion and acknowledgement for things like just patch notes saying, hey, here they are, bundles and playlists like that, those shouldn't be the only things communicated. That's how you end up jading a player base. At least acknowledge that things are being tracked so that players that do have these issues feel heard in that regard. I know that Call of Duty is absolutely at that state where you cannot please everyone, but if you can please more people by acknowledging that, I don't see why we don't try. So fingers crossed we get more communication here in the very near future. And again, while I'm not expecting too much after maybe say middle of next week until the new year, fingers crossed this is a step in the right direction going forward. But for now, that's where we're gonna wrap it up. But before we wrap everything up, a reminder, check out my friends at G Fuel, code Espresso, 20% off right now on your entire order, with some discounts going upwards of even 30% off on some items. So if you're looking for a restock, a stocking stuffer gift, now is a great time to take advantage of that. For me personally, I love the Morbius nectarine flavors. I'm stocked up on those. For as many memes as that movie ended up creating, the flavor itself is honestly great. I'm also a big fan of strawberry banana, hype sauce, starfruit, and others. Can't go wrong with any of those. Unfortunately, another favorite of mine, pink lemonade, was vaulted. So as much as I'd love to recommend that one, you might be hard-pressed to find that. But if you guys are interested, check out the link in the description below and use code ESPRESSO for 20 to 30% off your entire order. But for now, that's what we're going to call it. I'd love to get your thoughts and feedback down below. What do you think of these changes? Do you think they're a step in the right direction? Maybe not so much. Whatever the case, drop your thoughts below. But if you enjoyed the video, you found it at all insightful, do me a favor and drop a like on it. And if you're new to the channel, make sure you subscribe so you don't miss a single thing regarding all things Modern Warfare 2, Warzone 2, and anything COD related. For now, thanks so much for watching. My name is ESPRESSO. I'll see you guys later. Take care and peace.